Welcome to the 2025 EWTN Family Celebration in Tyson's Corner, Virginia. In the one, we are one. Dr. Guarendi, he is a psychologist. He tried to help me back there. He said, there's no hope for you, Cullum. He's an author. I saw you nodding back there saying, mm-hmm. He's an author, he's a speaker. His show on radio is called The Doctor Is In. On EW Television, it's called Living Right with Dr. Ray. He is an authority on parenting and behavioral issues. He is the father of 10 adopted children. He's been working with parents and families and educators for more than 40 years in substance abuse programs, in psychiatric centers, in juvenile courts, and in private practice. He's also the author of a dozen books and joins us now to give us a bit of his wisdom. Please welcome Dr. Ray, everybody.
Part about the 10 kids is true. That's why I'm here. It's quieter here and it smells better. People find out I got 10 kids, they always get this. All right, now that you got your own kids, what have you learned? I learned something very critical. I seldom took them out in public. You take them out in public, those of you who have raised your children, you know this. They embarrass you. We get our vengeance. First 9, 10 years, true, they embarrass us. After that, we embarrass them. Oh, come on, Dad, don't wear the pants with the feathers. Dad, don't wave at me when people are looking at us and I'm not going to pull your finger. My wife is a convert to the Catholic faith. She made her first confession when she was 39. She understood the beautiful reasoning behind confession, but she couldn't get it through her head that when you go to confession, you got to confess your own sins, not your husband's. Bless me, Father, Ray has sinned. As I said, she made her first confession when she was 39. Gentlemen, you read these marriage books and they all tell you the same thing. Be on your knees for your wife. Okay, fine. She goes in the confessional, I get on my knees, and I stay there the whole time she's in the confessional. So I took a week off from work. She came out. Honey, what do you think? Well, Ray, you're right. I feel cleaner than ever. I said, that's great. So what'd you tell Father? I'm not telling you that. You can tell me you're not bound by the seal. I'm not telling you, Ray. I figured it out. If you want to know what your spouse or your kid tells Father in the confessional, you kind of got to go in the back door. So, honey, what did you get for penance? If you know what they got for penance, you can kind of reason backward to how rotgut they were. She said, okay, I guess I can tell you that. I got a rosary. Rosary? It's not bad for 40 years of pagan muck. She said, with the stations of the cross at every bead. Oh, kind of wish you'd have told me that before I married you. Then she asked me, Ray, what do you usually get for penance? Me? Most of the time? Half a sign of the cross. Sometimes a quarter. That's hardly enough time to levitate. I've been shrinking for over 40 years. I used to be like 6'9". Number one reason parents and grandparents come to me, by far, discipline. Okay, Mr. Expert Man, you tell me how to get him to stay in bed. I can't get him to stay in bed. Chews his way down through the bedroom floor, drops into the family room. I'm back. You'll never be free. You'll never have another child. I'll be in your bedroom till I'm 16, that's why. And that girl's mouth, that snotty, snarly, you know, if I'd have talked to my parents that way, my head would have been rolling down the hallway. And the school people, they don't help. You know what they did last year? They closed during June, July, and August. I actually had to live with my own child during the daytime. Now, many of you have raised a lot of kids, and we live in an interesting culture, you see, because you're allowed to pretty much do anything, anytime, anywhere, but the one person we give grief to is the married mother of more than 1.86 children. If you've got 4, 5, 6 kids, you're going to hear, oh, do you know how this is happening? Don't you have a TV? People used to ask us that. Are these all your children? I'd say, no, of course not. The oldest is at home with the triplets. Many of you are grandparents and you've raised your children, and I've noticed, I personally believe you are the last generation who knew who the parent was. You parented out of a mindset, I am mom. You are not. I was 3 years old. I said this to my mom. I don't like you. She looked at me. Raymond, you're a little behind. Stopped liking you last year. You know, that was back before you could psychologically smack parents around. One of my kids tells me I don't like you, so what? I got 5 or 6 who do. Any given moment, I got a 50% approval rating. People feel guilty now when they discipline. They're afraid that their kids are going to resent them. They wonder if they're doing something psychologically incorrect. They'll say to me, please, give me a technique so that I can discipline less. I developed it. It's the best technique I have ever seen for disciplining any kid less. Simply do one thing. Lower your standards. You get them low enough, you don't have to discipline at all. I told you, quit doing drugs in the living room when we have company. You discipline because you love. Because you can't establish morals and character without it. You know why else you discipline, dear people, whether it's your kid or your grandkid? You're the best that child is ever going to have. If you don't do it now because you feel guilty or you're afraid he won't like you, you're worried about doing something psychologically incorrect, the child will be disciplined. They'll do it. A judge, a landlord, an army sergeant, a police officer, an employer. I shudder at this next one. A wife. Somebody's going to teach them. And the world will hurt. I'm fond of telling folks, discipline without love may be harsh. Love without discipline? That's child abuse. Because ultimately that child is going to run up against that world and get hurt. You love them, they may not. Only one person ever conquered the world, and he was God. There's an interesting phenomenon that occurs in my office. A parent will come in, describe a litany of trouble about this long, then they'll say this. I think I'm giving you the wrong impression. You know, overall, he's a pretty good kid. And I'll ask, how is that? Well, he's not on drugs or anything like that. One of the new moral high bars, he's not on drugs. I ask my clients, what do you want looking back at you at age 22? What would you hope to be able to say about that child? No guarantees now. We'll get to that. If you're content to say, well, you know, given the way kids are turning out nowadays, I'm counting my blessings. Parole officer says one of the nicest kids he has. I tell him, you don't have to parent that hard. Be like the folks out there, you'll probably raise a kid not on drugs. But if you hope to look at that child at age 22 and say something like this, he's 1 in 100. Morals, character, compassion. That's a beautiful human being. I challenge them. You ready to be a 1 in 100 parent? You cannot parent like that culture anymore. They supervise down here. They should be supervising here. They're giving out social freedom 2, 3, 4 years too early. Technological freedom 5, 6, 7 years too early. And you know what else, dear people? Many of you have raised great kids. Many of you are in the process of raising great kids. And the irony is, you don't get credit for it. You are so lucky You just got good kids. You have Chastity and Angelica. I didn't get good kids. I got Chucky, Damien, Cujo, and Lucifer. Like it was the luck of the draw, you know, I just got bad kids. At one point, my children were 12, 11, 10, 10, 9, 7, 4, 3, 2, and baby. My 10 children are all adopted. Some of you may be adopted parents. I was talking to you out there. One of the great things about adoption, agencies don't tell you this. I figured out about the fourth kid. If you adopt in December, you still get the tax deduction for the whole year. They pay for themselves that first year, then you start to fall behind because they eat more. But if you cut back on the food, you can break even September, October. My wife and I have been in this ongoing conflict, and it got worse as we got more kids. Ladies, I believe you will agree with me. First of all, my wife does not work for a living. I don't know what she does. While you quote me, I'll deny I was even here. I've seen what the woman does. I want no part of what the woman does. When the kids were little, she'd take them to a grocery store, and I'd go. If I was heavily sedated, I would go. Had to see it, strung out behind her like ducks, you know, hands at their sides, not allowed to touch anything. They would not deviate 6 inches either way out of a straight line the whole 2 hours they were in there. No, they wouldn't. Leg irons wouldn't let them. I got 3 white kids, 2 Hispanic kids, 2 biracial kids, 3 black kids. People would look at my wife. Some of them were pretty bold. This is some kind of club or something? Some of them wouldn't say a whole lot, but I could read their eyes. That major dork don't realize them ain't all his. I suspect her, but I can't catch her. Some of my children have what the experts would call risk factors. Now, in psychological parlance, a risk factor is anything that would make a kid tougher to raise. Poor prenatal care, poor postnatal care, abuse in the womb, neglect in the womb, high maternal stress, low birth weights, heavy drug exposure, crack, narcotics, barbiturates, heroin, cocaine, nicotine, marijuana, alcohol. My son, Peter, birth mom was told, "You're pregnant. Don't worry about it. There's a blood clot growing next to the baby. Baby grows, blood clot grows. Blood clot wins. Baby suffocated. Problem solved." The problem made it. Born 2 months premature, 1 month intensive care, but Petey made it. My daughter Elizabeth. Birth mom got pregnant in 7th grade. Went to get it taken care of. She was in her 7th month. Babies are bigger in the 7th month. I talk to a lot of secular groups. This is the part where they get most uncomfortable. I say, because you know, when that little child is this big in the womb, you can't flush them out, suck them out. You got to pull them out. And they don't come out in one piece. You got to take them and break them apart. And that little girl called us soon after. We were not expecting a 10th kid. We thought we were done at 9. I guess you could say Lizzie was an unplanned adoption. We weren't practicing safe phone. My son Samuel, 2 weeks before due date, 35-year-old birth mom was told something is terribly wrong. You mind if we test? Tentative diagnosis, corpus callosum agenesis. Severe neurological birth defect. Worst case scenario, that's an institution for life. You got to believe everybody in that birth mom's world was against her having this child. She gave birth to Sammy. Sammy is 32. He just finished a 10-year stint at Fort Hood. They called him Sergeant G. It was a shadow on the ultrasound. The test was totally inaccurate. My kids have this confluence, some of them, of developmental yuck that would make them harder to raise and slower to socialize, more impulsive, more immature. I got something like that. I would not consider any of my 10 children the most common adjective now leveled upon children today. Strong-willed. What is this dude? Is he clueless? How could you have 10 kids under those circumstances, not consider any of them strong-willed? There's a simple explanation. The strongest willed of my 10 kids is not stronger willed than his mother. We got so many strong-willed kids out there because the big people have lost will. We're not as sure of ourselves. We're not as confident. We're not as secure, especially faith-filled people like you. The culture doesn't think like you. Go to the computer, type in child, self-esteem, search. Last time I looked, over 100 million options. The experts believe that self-esteem is the apex moral virtue. Type in child, humility, search. A fraction. When's the last time you heard a secular expert talk about humility? It's at the very center of the virtues we want to try to teach our kids and grandkids. My humility is something I'm very proud of. Some of you out there were asking me, do I have a new book coming out? I do. 3 Most Humble People I Know and How I Taught the Other 2. So, can you imagine our Lord going up to the apostles? Simon, you know, there for a while I toyed with changing your name to Peter, but I decided against it. I didn't know what that would do to your self-image, you know. You've always kind of seen yourself as a Simon. I go changing your whole identity now. I don't know what untoward psychological effects that might have. However, I've talked to my father. He and I agree you have a future in this operation. If you can conceive it, you can believe it. If you can believe it, you can achieve it. 12 more weeks of Tony Robbins management courses. Simon, you'll run this outfit. Probably not. By the way, we are here near D.C. I always wanted to go to confession like a politician. Bless me, Father. Mistakes were made. And I'd like to apologize if God took something I said out of context, became offended by it, and got upset. I'm sorry for his sensitivity. A couple of my children, we got at age 4. Birth mom pretty much ingested all kinds of toxins. We don't know where the kids were the first year and a half of their life. Children's Services finally placed them in a foster care setting where the foster parents were sweet people, but they didn't discipline them. They felt guilty about this discipline thing. Remember what I said about love without discipline is child abuse because the world will put a consequence on you? We've since found out that my son and daughter, John and Joanna, had a chance to be adopted prior to us. Two other families were selected before us. We had 4 kids at the time. They weren't looking at us. Both families backed out. They met the children, and they reacted. Ooh, no thank you. We were hoping for something a little more along the lines of a child. You see what I mean, dear people? About the world hurting you when you're undisciplined. That little 4-year-old boy and a girl lost a mommy and a daddy 3 times. Why? Because the big people didn't do what the big people needed to do. And the other big people looked at him and said, not you. You're warped. Now, I got to admit, it didn't look too good. First visit there, Johnny punches me in the face. Attempts to strangle my wife, kicks the foster father about 14 times during one of his multiple eruptions. We walked out of there, and my wife had developed a tic. She was just going like this. And she said to me, Ray, we got to rethink this. I don't think the tax deduction's worth it. I said, honey, you got 2 tax deductions plus the credits. They never made John go to bed. He roamed the house. He created chaos. He was dangerous. So the first weekend visit to our house, my wife says, Raymond, why don't you put the children to bed tonight? Honey, I'll give you $100 if you do it. I don't have time for that. I'm writing a parenting book. All right, come on, guys, let's go. Heading for bed. Everybody came running except Johnny. Johnny just stood there. No, go bed. Little language delay. Now, I'm not a big fella, but I've been a weightlifter all my life. And one thing I know, even at my age, I am still stronger than the biggest, baddest 4-year-old in the whole world. The child is going to bed. So I went over and I kind of bent down, you know, kind of like the veterinarians tell you, don't tower over a wild animal. Let him smell your hand. I put my hands on his shoulders. Now, he could tell by my grip, this is how, shall we say, a non-negotiable psychological interface. At that point, he erupts. Head starts spinning around. Green stuff's coming out of every body orifice. And I was talking to some of the great EWTN theologians there, and I was checking to see if this is theologically correct. But I got this theory that God put holes in them to leak off the pressure. You know, most of them leak up here, but you can get leakers down here. You can. So Johnny started leaking. So I picked him up over my head. I wanted to convey an impression. I carried him to bed. I put him in the bottom bunk, actually, and I held him. I didn't hurt him. We'd already said teeth. We'd already said teeth. Good, Ray. We'd already brushed teeth. We'd already said prayers. We did the bedtime ritual. And I just said, Johnny, it's bedtime, son. Daddy's not going to let you get up until I decide you're going to stay. And please don't get up after I leave, because I'll come back. You should have seen the look in his face. I went from Disney World to the county jail. My son Andrew, at that point we had 6'5", I couldn't let Johnny roam the house. He was kind of dangerous. Andrew's in the top bunk. He's watching this. Andrew, would you talk to your brother, please? Johnny, if Daddy says go to bed, you better go to bed. I remember one time, I didn't go to bed. You're not going to like what's going to happen. You know that, John? You think he leaves, John? He's not going to leave, John. He's going to go out in the hallway, and he'll wait for you, and then if you come out, he's going to crack your bottom. Andrew, that's enough. You sound like Mom. How long do you think I had to hold that boy before he went? It was under a minute. Is this because I'm such a great disciplinarian? No. My wife is a far better disciplinarian than I am. You know what it was, folks? And it's something the grandparents in here had more of. Perception. Johnny was reading me. He knew I was going to be daddy. We'd visited many times. But he didn't quite know. It looked like his daddy meant it. Plus, I had a tattoo put right there, said born to kick butt. Many of you had the look. Remember the look? You look at a kid now, he looks back at you like, what are you looking at? The look is dead. The look came from perception. The perception was, here is the warning look. This is Pavlov's dog here. I'm getting ready to act. And you just looked because the children knew that you were going to act firmly and confidently. And then, over time, you didn't have to act that much because you had the look. And I always tell parents and grandparents this, if you have authority, you don't have to discipline very often. It's a kind, loving word. It is not a jackbooted, kick the door down, I'm back and I'm ticked, kid. No. It's a quiet, calm confidence. You mean what you say, and then you don't have to discipline anywhere near as much. I learned a lot of psychology from my dad. My dad went to God before I was born. Excuse me, Lord. I'm going to raise a whole bunch of kids. I don't want to complicate the whole affair. Give me 8 or 10 phrases. I'll just repeat them over and over. Boy, you got a boatload of dads and grandpas in here. Number one indicator of the quality of a community. We dads are not as versatile as moms. We're all kind of stamped out of the same mold. I finally figured out why that is. You know how moms have to go to Lamaze classes to learn how to be Maz? She's looking at me like, did I leave the iron on? Dads must go to La Paz classes. First time I heard this when I was 3 years old. You gonna cry? I'm gonna give you something to cry about. First father ever to fling that one around. Raymond, you go get me something to spank you with. My dad used to use iMessages. You know, the shrinks talk about iMessages. You don't use you messages, you use iMessages. Not like you upset me, but I'm upset by what you're doing. My dad was 25 years ahead of iMessages. Dad, I got peanut butter on your vice grips. Raymond, I'm going to peanut butter your head. It was always some iMessage up here. You are not going to find, I'm going to peanut butter your head in any discipline book I have looked. It's not there. By today's enlightened psychological standards, My father was a parenting barbarian, a Neanderthal. Judge it by the acid question. Not was he psychologically correct. You know, a culture's in big trouble when psychological correctness is replacing moral correctness. When more and more people are asking the question, is it normal? As opposed to, is it right? Perfectly normal for a 3-year-old to meltdown fit on you. It's not good. 14-year-olds can get snotty and disrespectful if you let them. It's not right. The question is not, is it normal? Sin is normal. The question is it good and right? My dad's discipline worked about 50% of the time. He was a high school dropout during World War II, and my dad went to McKinley in Canton, Ohio. He was a freshman when a woman named Rita Rizzo was a senior. She went to St. Anthony's in Canton, Ohio. That's where all the Italians went. I'm Italian. By law, you had to go to St. Anthony's. I attended Mother Angelica's parish. I heard about Mother years before she was involved at all with EWTN. She was a prioress at Sancta Clara Monastery in Canton, 3 miles from my house. I heard about her when I was 14. Went to the house of a woman named Rhoda Wise. That house is now managed and taken care of by EWTN. I was a freshman, and my mom told me about this young girl who had a miracle cure at Rhoda's house. And I said, well, where is she now? Oh, she became a nun. She's over at Sancta Clara. It's the first time I heard Mother Angelica. Little sidelight to this talk. But that element, sometimes I tease my clients. What would your mother have done had you talked to her the way your daughter is talking to you? No, I would not have talked to my mother that way. Well, why not? You were a teenage girl once. I may have felt like it, but I didn't do it very often. Why? I knew. You knew what? Something would happen. What? I don't know. Why don't you know? It never happened. Why didn't it happen? I never did it. Why didn't you do it? Something would have happened. What? I don't know. Who's on first? I don't know. Third base! You see what it speaks of, dear people? That ultimately kind, calm confidence, strength, the best gift you can give your kids. I deal with a lot of very, very, very bright people, college-educated, PhDs. They're being ruled by their 5-year-old. I know you grandparents, you know this, you grandparents, you want to say something. Grandmothers, this is advice they give you on your daughter or daughter-in-law's wedding day. Sit up, shut up, and wear beige. That is good advice for when you're tempted to say something to that daughter or daughter-in-law about her parenting. Just sit up, shut up, and wear beige. It's smart. And if they do ask your opinion, you get your attorney to draw something up. Say, here, sign this. But you got to be careful. Now, you don't want to get carried away. My dad got carried away. He said things made me neurotic. Raymond, you shut your mouth and eat. I'll teach you to backtalk your mother, young man. Come on, Dad, I already know how. I'll show you to hit your brother. Go ahead. You fall out of that tree, break both your legs, Buster. Don't come running to me. I got to thinking about this. What are our kids going to tell their kids? 790 channels, that's all we got when I was a boy. TV screen only covered half the garage wall when I was a boy. Remotes, power buttons up at the top. You had to stretch your thumb to get that top power up there. Now, sometimes you hurt stuff right in there, you know. One winter got so bad. After my mom was done shoveling the driveway, she only made it halfway up the walk before she collapsed. I had to step over her with my hot chocolates. Spilled some right there. Should have sued her. I'm becoming pop. Last year I started wearing blue boxer shorts with sailboats on them. Walking around the house, shutting off every light. What do I own, the power company around here? Shut the door, I'm not heating the backyard. We are a microwave culture. We want results. We want them quickly. We want them certainly. We want them with minimal effort. I fall prey to this. I get up in the morning, I stick my mug in the microwave, I punch in 60 seconds. Down around the 30-second mark, I'm doing this. Come on. Haven't got all minute. Let's go. This has impacted our raising children. How long is this going? My clients will ask me this. How long is this going to take? I have tried everything with this child. Nothing works. Finally, I got so frustrated, I sent him next door to play and moved the family while he was gone. My clients will come to me and they'll say, I can't talk on the phone anymore because I sound like a crazed lunatic when I get on the phone because my children are carrying on so bad, I can't get peace on the phone. So I give them this little demonstration. Alexander Bell. Stay with me. You guys embarrass me when I'm on the phone. You know that? I sound like I'm out of control. We got a new house rule. From this point forward, when I get on the phone, please be respectful. Do not interrupt. And that does include this. I'm going to excuse myself from the call. I'm going to put you in your room for the rest of the call. Now, if you come out, I'll ground you for the day. My clients will say to me, how long will I have to do that before this works and I get peace on the phone? And I'll say, 35, 85, 125. I have no idea. That'll be $100. Because I tell them, you won't get away with this. Oh, hello, Monsignor. How are you? Oh, gosh. Thank you. We would be flattered to be the role model family for the church children love in. Monsignor, could you just excuse me for 1 second, please? I'm going to have a little love chat with the children. Yeah, they're precious blessings from God. You know how that is. We love them desperately. I wish we had 18 or 19 of them. Okay, we love you too, Monsignor. All right, I'll get them on the extension. They're getting giddy. Oh, yeah, we're half hour past Rosary Circle. We still pray it on our knees in Aramaic in broken glass. Yeah, except when we're levitating, huh? Doesn't everybody? Okay, we love you too, Monsignor. Okay. I'll get him on the speaker. Peace to you. Harmony. Aquarius. Okay, thank you. You're gonna die. I'm gonna rip your tongue out of your throat, wrap it around the fence. Get away from me, you little maggot. What's that, Monsignor? No, that's the neighbor lady. She been talking to her kids like that for years. We do pray for her, but I don't think she'll come. No, she doesn't like kids. There's something that the shrinks, I believe, have come up with because of our family size constricting. It's called the birth order effect. It's very simple, you know. The oldest one has certain characteristics. The last one has certain characteristics. The middle child's the lost child. I always tell parents, you're that afraid of middle child syndrome, don't have an odd number of kids. You got an odd number, have another one, give one away, wipe out that middle spot. Now, the truth on birth order, it only holds one place. Oldest and only. As a group, they tend to be a little more independent, a little more achieving. Maybe they develop a shade quicker. I don't think that's their position. We all change our styles. That first kid, you boiled everything she came within 50 feet of. Last kid, you throw them this big dirt ball. Say, here, chew on that. Wipe your mouth off in a gas can before you come in the house. First kid, dual videotape of every burp and bowel movement he ever had. Last kid, one snapshot at the birth, one at the wedding rehearsal dinner. Mom, how come I got no pictures? That's not true, son. Your sister did a popsicle stick sketch of you in first grade. We kept it. Besides, you look like your sister. Use her pictures. First kid, you sneak into her room every night. You stick a mirror underneath her nostrils. Make sure she's still breathing. Last kid, you tell the dog, get out of the crib. Don't lick him in the face. No, I was talking to the baby. You don't know where that mouth's been. Poor dog. Somebody asked my wife when our 9th one, Petey, was about 2-3 months old, is Petey sleeping through the night yet? My wife said, I don't know if he is. We are. There are some ideas that are so foolish, only intellectual types could actually believe them. And one of these is that there are no differences between little boys and little girls. They're just socialized into different roles, that's all. You give a little girl, is that my time cue there? Sir, is that my time cue? You know I ignore that, don't you? You're just like, my sentences are longer than that. You give a little girl a front-end loader, she'll carry it around for 4 years, become a special ops tank commando. You give a little boy a baby doll, he'll carry it around for 4 years, become a nurture and preschool teacher. 50% of little boys will immediately rip the head off that baby doll and turn it into a machine gun. We are wired different. God says it, human history says it, the research says it. For example, little girls, women, are more verbal than little boys. Men, they talk earlier, they talk better, they talk longer. That's why if a mom drifts into a discipline trap, it's usually something along these lines. Talk, talk, nag, nag, repeat, repeat, negotiate. Talk, talk, nag, nag, repeat, repeat. If a dad drifts into a discipline trap, usually something along these lines. Tolerate, tolerate, oblivious, oblivious, ignore, ignore, kill, tolerate, tolerate. First day of kindergarten, I asked my son, Andrew, how was school today, buddy? Okay. That's good. So what'd you do? Nothing. Or ladies, if you have a very communicative male, stuff. What is the name of the lady who stands in front of you and talks for 6.5 hours? I don't think she told anybody, Dad. Joshua says he's got one called teacher. I'll ask her if they're related. First day of kindergarten, I asked my daughter, Hannah, how was school today, baby? Well, okay, Daddy, my teacher's name is Mrs. Bartley. Mrs. Bartley has 3 children, Jessica, Jason, and Ashley. I know their birthdays, favorite colors, middle names. I'll tell you those later. We did 12 activities. The pumpkin cutting activity was started at 8:07. Is that a stupid time or what? Ashley was my best friend till 8:30. Then she got mad at me. I don't even know what I did. But Jessica told Tiffany I could be her best friend till tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Now, Mrs. Bartley has this little brown mark right there. You can't tell it's there unless she goes over by the window and she bends down kind of like this. If she does, the sun comes through Venetian blinds, off the clock, reflects to her bifocals. Forms a prism on the window with a brown dot. Daddy, I don't think she knew it was there, so I figured it's time somebody told her. They both had the same teacher. Psychological correctness is a quagmire. It's a trap. You'll overthink, you'll overanalyze, you'll overtalk, you'll overnegotiate, you'll underenjoy. Of course you can get better at this. Of course you can gain skills. Of course you can buy my books and tapes. Ah! Little subliminal advertising in there. EWTN is going to cut it out. But I've watched some of the most wonderful, loving, filled people, even in the extreme, say things like, you know, I wanted to have 4 or 5 kids. I stopped at 2. It's just too hard. Kids are kids. They're not strong-willed. They're kids. Fallen human nature. We Christians know this, but we bought into psych lingo. I want to close with this. This is something that I believe is a Christian epidemic. I don't think it's ever happened in the history of the world. And that is, more and more adult children are leaving the faith they were grown up in. And what happens is, many of you who did your very best thought it was going to be absorbed, especially you moms. You blame yourself. Where did we go wrong? What happened? What did I miss? I feel like a failure. And you know what? It was his fault. I wanted to kneel down when we prayed the rosary. He let him sit in the couch. Spiritual sloppiness. If that's happened to you, and I got to believe it's happened a lot, I'd like to take your guilt away logically, if I may, please. Just answer yes or no to these questions. Is there a God? Is Christ God? Was he sinless? Could he perform miracles? Did he have a perfect understanding of human nature? Could he get most people to follow him? Oh, I see. You think you're better at this than the God-man. Can you do a miracle? Can you even do a crummy card trick? Our Lord himself couldn't get most people to follow him, folks. My 10 kids are grown now. As I've said often, I got some going to serve the church. I got some probably going to serve time. One going to Penn State, one going to State Penn. My wife and I were asked by our Lord to do the very best we could do with what we knew at the time and where we were in the faith. We will never tether our peace to the adult decisions our kids make. Because if we do, we're making a liar out of our Lord. Because he said, I'll give you peace the world doesn't understand. I had a lady call the radio show once. She said, I'll never be at peace till the day I die unless my kids come back to the faith. And I said to her, well, they may come back after you're dead. But I said, if you cling to that, then you're telling our Lord he just can't give you peace. All I know is the early manuscripts don't have an asterisk next to there where the Lord says, I'll give you peace, and an asterisk says, unless your kid leaves the faith. We're there to pray for them. We're there to love them. But we're not there to beat ourselves up over that. It's been a real good privilege to get to see you. And you know what they told me on EWTN? They said, you got to stand behind a podium. I said, I've given 3,500 talks. I don't stand behind a podium. They go, well, that's the only lights. That's the only lights we got. You go out there, you're going to get in the dark. I said, that's good. That's what you want at my age. You want to be in the dark. Let me close with this. I'd like to celebrate the many beautiful marriages I've talked to out there. Elderly gentleman and his wife were shopping. She bends over. She picks up a can of clean peaches. She tries to walk out without paying. Woo! Goes before the judge. What'd you do? I stole a can of peaches. How many in a can? 12. 12 days in the county jail then. Her husband can't believe he's hearing this. Your Honor, please, I'd like to speak up for my wife, please. Go ahead. She also stole a can of peas. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. That was great, Dr. Ray. Thank you, buddy. Knocked it out of the park. Well done. Thank you so much. Dr. Ray, ladies and gentlemen.